Dagesh Lene. Now, the Dagesh Lene is something we've already seen. In the lesson Letters with Dots in Chapter 1, we looked at 6 Hebrew letters that can take this thing called the Dagesh Lene. And they were called the Begad Kafat letters. Begad Kafat. If you remember, this is a mnemonic to remember the 6 that can take a Dagesh Lene. If they have the Dagesh Lene, they are a stop or a hard sound. If they don't have it, they're a continuous sound. Now, what we didn't cover in that lesson, in that module, was how to tell when the Dagesh Lene is there and when it isn't. And so that's what I want to do right now. The rule is that there are 2 conditions that need to be met for Dagesh Lene to show up and to stay there. One is that it has to be at the beginning of a syllable. And the second, and both have to be met. So I'm going to put a big and here. And secondly, so first, it must be at the beginning of a syllable, and secondly, it must not follow a vowel. Not follow vowel. So no preceding vowel. Beginning of syllable and no preceding vowel. That's where you'll see a Begad Kafat letter having a Dagesh Lene. Dagesh Lene will be in one of these letters if these conditions are met. Let's look at some examples. Okay, let's look at the word bayit. This means house. So here we have a Begad Kafat letter, the bait, and it is beginning a word and therefore a syllable, and no preceding vowel. So the Dagesh Lene is there and it's pronounced bayit, not vayit. Okay, let's do another one. We'll do midbar, which I think we already have seen. It means wilderness, midbar. And let us put our syllable division in there. So here we have a bait, which is a Begad Kafat letter, and it begins a syllable, and there is no preceding vowel. This is the closed consonant, CVC. There's a silent shava here, right? It's not a vowel, it's a syllable marker. Silent shava. So given that this is a silent shava, our conditions are met. This letter is the beginning of a syllable, no preceding vowel. So the Dagesh Lene is there. Dalet is also a Begad Kafat letter, so it could take a Dagesh Lene. Does it meet those 2 conditions? Is it at the beginning of a syllable? Nope, it's at the end of a syllable. And not only that, it follows a vowel. So on both counts, the Dagesh Lene is eliminated, takes off. Okay, let's look at another word. This is a good word for this because there's lots of Begad Kafat letters in it. Ko, cha, kochavim. 3 syllables. We'll mark them. Kochavim. So, first, they all start with Begad Kafat letters. This one, this one, and this one. So kaf, should it have a Dagesh Lene? Well, we see it does. Why does it? Because it starts a syllable and there's no preceding vowel. No problem. This kaf also starts a syllable, but is there a preceding vowel? Holam vav, very much a vowel. So Dagesh Lene takes off. No Dagesh Lene here because of the preceding vowel. Beit, another Begad Kafat letter, begins a syllable, so that's fine. But there's a preceding vowel, so no Dagesh Lene. So both conditions have to be met for the Dagesh Lene to stay there. Now let me give you another one here. Devarim. Devarim is also a word we looked at. De. Va. Rim. We looked at this earlier. This is words. It means words. put our divisions in there too. Devarim. Now, this one is a Begad Kafat letter, begins with syllable, no preceding vowel, therefore Dagesh Lene. Meets both conditions. This is also Begad Kafat letter. It begins a syllable, so that's fine. And does it have a vowel before it? Well, Devarim, in fact it does. This guy is a vocal Shava. In the presence of a vowel, any vowel, even the smallest of vowels, the vocal Shava is the most reduced of all vowels. Even that little vowel is enough to scare away the Dagesh Lene that would otherwise be here. Now when you look at this word, you have to be a little careful because you look at this word and there's no Dagesh here. You look at this word, which one? Didn't I have one here? Devarim. Yes, here. This one, same thing. You got a bait following a Shava. There is a Dagesh. Here you have a bait following Shava. There is no Dagesh. Why is that? It's because this is a silent Shava and this is a vocal Shava. So when you're thinking about Dagesh Lenes and whether it should or shouldn't be there, you have to first figure out whether your Shava is vocal or not, if you have one there. Because a vocal Shava is a vowel, a silent Shava is not a vowel. A silent Shava is simply a syllable marker. And any vowel will cause Dagesh Lene to take off. Okay, so Dagesh Lene is pretty weak, really. Any vowel is going to scare him away. Let's take a look at one other example, one other case. And this is, if you have a word, you can have a word called like ken. Ken means thus or so. Dagesh Lene in a Begad Kafat letter, no vowel preceding it. But if you precede it with a little metheg there, Vayhi, a separate word. Vayhi means and it was. So, and it was so. When you have these two together, then Dagesh Lene disappears. So let's get rid of it. So even in the presence of a vowel that is in the preceding word, Dagesh Lene takes off. So it's not that strong. Now we had an example, a similar example to this, where we had voker here instead. In our Genesis 5, Genesis 1 to 5 reading. Let me try and do this here. Okay, we'll copy this down here. And let us put in voker, which is what the word was. Which is it? Voker. And there was a makef here. This is where it says Vayhi Erev, there was evening, Vayhi Voker Yom Echad. There was evening, there was morning, day one. Now this is the same situation here. You have a Begad Kafat letter that could take a Dagesh Lene, begins a syllable, but it follows a vowel. Now here it follows even more closely than here because you have a makef just join the whole thing together. So, but that's why you say Vayhi Voker, not Vayhi Boker. So Dagesh Lene can disappear quite easily. The thing to remember is really are just our two conditions. Dagesh Lene will only be there if it's at the beginning of a syllable and does not follow a vowel, any vowel, even a vocal Shava.